Valuetainers, I'm excited about today's episode because today we have a special guest with us. We have Antonio Centeno here with us, the legend on YouTube with 715,000 subscribers. If you get on YouTube ever, you have seen this face on YouTube, and I'm excited to have you today as a guest. So, brother, thank you for flying in here.
Pat, thank you very much.
Yes, his son is back there with us. Styling it. Yesterday he was doing some bungee jumping from 7 stories, which is epic, and he's trying to convince me to do it. I'm a little bit, we'll see if I'm going to do it or not, but that's a whole different conversation. But we have a good time today. We're going to have a good time today because, you know, a lot of times entrepreneurship, as you know this, you're a successful business person, and I'd love for the audience to know who you are. Entrepreneurship has a lot to do with second chances, and here's what I mean by second chances. If you don't do well on your first impression, you don't have a second chance. So if you try to come and sell me a product and you don't do a good job on me feeling good about the way you presented yourself, you may not even get the second opportunity to do follow-up. So really excited about the questions we have. I think the audience is going to learn a lot today. We have entrepreneurs from all over the world that have been wanting us to do this interview to find out more about style and attire. And I even put a tie on for you today, just so you know.
I saw that.
You rarely see me put a tie on. This tie is dedicated to you, just so you know
nice,
that.
Nice watch. I love the shoes here too.
We're trying to make it work, man. We're trying to make it work. So, Antonio, I see you when you explain and you educate. I see you as an incredible teacher. You educate very well. You're very specific in the way you teach. And then when you and I spoke together, and I learned more about your background, about the discipline, about the way you raise your family, how certain things mean a lot to you as a former officer yourself. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who Antonio Centeno is?
Sure. So I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a former Marine. I served with 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines. But yeah, Pat, I think I'm an educator. What I like to do is take the science of style and to break it down for the regular guy so that he can use style as a weapon to get what he wants out of life. Because I'm not big into fashion. I don't like runways.
You're not big on fashion.
I really don't care too much about clothing. What I care about is how men can use it as a tool to be able to get the job, be able to get the girl, be able to go out there and get what they want. And as long as that's happening, I'm good to go. And clothing to me is just the vehicle that I feel is underused. I mean, you just spent some time at Harvard, right? Mm-hmm. And when you walk on that campus, what'd you think?
Let me tell you, everyone was dressed up.
Everyone's dressed up, but how did the campus feel? Do you remember, like, when you look at it, was there trash everywhere?
No, not at all. No, not at all. It was a very clean, organized class, lots of pride, lots of culture.
When you look at the buildings, they'd been there a while. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a feeling, there was an ambiance when you walk on go through Harvard Square. It's an amazing place. I've been there myself, and that's what I want guys to be able to, because I mean, when you go to Harvard, you expect the smartest, the best in the world. And I know many men, they've put in all that time and effort for their education. They've got that $100,000 MBA. Or maybe they went to night school and they busted their butt for 4 years to get that 2-year degree. And then they, went off. I mean, they really put in the time and effort. And I want them to have the clothing that shows that they did that.
Now, how did you get into it? How did this happen? From military into this, how does that work out?
Well, I was in the Marine Corps, so we're the best dressed,
Best dressed.
Sorry about the Army, but I mean, you guys have some nice uniforms. But
I learned a long time ago meeting Marines, and I think my level of understanding for human beings happened the moment I met Marines, and I realized one thing very early, that not everyone's perfect. So I started forgiving Marines a long time ago for their lack of perfection, but I'm totally okay with that. Forgiveness is a big part of my life. So
we could go on for this for a while, but I will say that I got my first custom suit when I was in the Marine Corps. Okay. So we went to the Marine shop, and I paid a little bit more. You can go to the Marine shop, or you can go to the PX. PX is just the military store. The Marine shop, what you paid for is for them to fit the clothing, everything from, literally the length of your sword is built to your body. And that's so you can pull it out properly, and it's actually made for you. So when I started seeing, wow, even the length of your sword, the way the uniform fits your body, it just made me feel great. And so I remember the first time I'm wearing my Marine blues out on the town. And I was kind of a thin guy, wasn't really having too much luck with the ladies. But when you wear a uniform like that, I don't know, it seems like that women are throwing themselves at you. You feel better. You feel like you're just stronger, and you just have a great time. And then I realized the power of clothing. And then I went on with my life, didn't think about it too much. And then when I got into the civilian world, after I transitioned out, I knew I needed a suit. I went to, interviewed at Harvard. I interviewed at Cornell University. And I was looking to go to those schools. I ended up going to the University of Texas to get my MBA. But
really, you came University of Texas?
Yeah, I went to UT, got my MBA.
But Iowa was for
undergrad.
Got it.
So I went to Cornell College, right next to the University of Iowa, for undergrad. And but when I was going to these high-end schools, I thought I needed to look the part. So I bought some custom suits, and I just loved the way that I looked. I didn't want to feel like an outsider. I mean, when you're going to these Ivy League schools, because I grew up in a trailer park, and you just always kind of have this chip on your shoulder that I don't belong in these places. You're there, even UT, Texas's flagship school. I'm surrounded by all these people that went to Princeton and all these other amazing schools, and I just didn't want to give them, that I wanted to put my best foot forward because I knew I wanted to achieve something. And when I realized that a lot of guys didn't get this, and they didn't realize that the clothing has such an effect on the perception of who we are, that I just felt there was an opportunity here, and that's what I jumped on.
Very cool. So Marines, you wearing your uniform for the first time, and when you wore it, apparently all the girls jumped at you, and then the inspiration came from there. So I know you're listening to this. It's a uniform attract.
His mother was the only woman I was looking at.
Oh, only the truth is said in videos like this. I hope you understand this. But we're going to have a good time today because we have also a project we're working on with Paul, which that'll be a whole different thing we'll talk about on you and Kelly Nishimoto. We brought Antonio from a men's perspective, and Kelly Nishimoto, who is the host of Something New, Something Borrowed for ladies, very, very well known on the women's fashion side. So we're going to see who can dress Paul better because Paul, our friend there, he rumor has it, this is purely a rumor, so we don't know if this is true or not. It's purely a conspiracy, and I don't know if it's been verified and validated yet. But there's a conspiracy that the movie came out a few years ago that was supposed to be a documentary was a part of the story for Paul. We don't believe it. We're just saying this is a rumor that was started. I don't know if you've heard of the documentary, The 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh,
that was a movie. There's a part of that movie that we were told. Now, Paul, we haven't verified it yet, but I just want to know, since he's talking about the blue suits, maybe those kind of go together for you to keep in mind with some of the feedback he's given to us. So that's very cool. So now you come out of the military, you go into fashion. Not fashion, but you see the fact that you like when you're going to wanting to be accepted by Harvard, some of these places. You go to University of Texas. It's a very reputable university. You like the three-piece suits you're wearing. Take us from there on how you led to what you're doing now with the YouTube channel, and now the YouTube channel's led to a business, to an entrepreneur. You run multiple different companies. You have businesses. You're partners with guys like John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneurs on Fire, and your partners and working with, I think it's Aaron as well,
Yep.
Alpha
M.
Alpha M. So you got all these different things now that's going on.
Sure.
How did that transition take place?
Well, it was 100% planned out, and I knew exactly how it was going to happen. No, that didn't happen.
I was going to say, I'm really curious where you're going with that.
Yeah, it never works out like that. So the first business I started was a custom clothier, and I thought I could sell clothing. I mean, my idea of a business was actually selling a physical product. And I needed to get traffic to my little custom clothier in Wisconsin. So I started writing out content. And then I had a website called The Art of Manliness actually pick me up and say, hey, we like your writing. Can you come write for us?
Art of Manliness is a...
Yeah, Brett McKay is actually just up in Tulsa. And his website, at the time, he only had about, 12, 13 articles. So wasn't really getting any traffic. But he recognized in me that, hey, these guys are good writers. They know more about style than we do. And so for the last, I think it's 8 years, maybe 9 years, I guess I've guest posted for him about one article a month. But really what drew me to it, and one of the things that defines me, I think, as a business person, is I always look at what's the underlying goal of the company, and is it more than just money? Because it's one of the reasons I came out here. we're talking about doing some guest posting. I wanted to measure you guys up and see what you stand for and make sure it's a business I want to be associated with. So I looked at that, and what I learned from Brett is the power of content and how actually that can be a way to be able to monetize a business. So I realized my custom clothier was one way to monetize, but it wasn't going to be my best. There's a lot of competition there, and I didn't have unfair advantages such as I didn't own my own factory or things like that. So I transitioned out of the clothing and I started becoming an educator. I realized, okay, if I put out content, I can add advertisers, I can make money with affiliate marketing, I can sell electronic products, and most importantly, the margin is much higher on these products. With clothing, especially when you make a lot of mistakes and you don't own the factory, you're making a 20% margin. And with information products, all these other things, we were making an 80% margin. So I didn't have to make as much money, and I was able to keep a lot more. And in business, that's something, when you see something like that, you realize I need to start pivoting, and there's a lot less competition now in what I do as well. So I enjoy it.
There's a lot less competition for people who are actually talking about men's style.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's not a lot of people doing that?
Well, I think if you're going to put yourself out there, you're going to have people ridicule you. I mean, you got people say things that they don't like you, that your hair is messed up, that you've got bad teeth, that you've got small hands. I know, I hear the jokes. Apparently, I have small hands, which I do, and nothing I can do about that. It's the way I was born. And so if you can put up with stuff like that, which many people can't, I think when you become a leader, and that's what many people are afraid of, is to become a leader in their industry and to be attacked. And when you put yourself out there, you will be attacked. So me being able to put up with that and realizing that I can deal with that has enabled us to succeed, where many people have come out and they've sort of tried, but they either gave up because they just didn't want to deal with the kind of the hate, or they didn't want to really put in the time and effort. For 2 years, I was running my clothier, but before I would show up to work at around 8 o'clock in the morning, I would start my filming at 4 o'clock in the morning. And so I had 2 jobs. And one of the jobs, building up my YouTube channel, didn't pay me anything. But I had, the end goal was in mind. I knew that I would build this up bigger than my clothier. And eventually it reached a point where I just shut down the clothier because it wasn't making nearly as much money as I started making with YouTube.
When did you see the shift with your YouTube channel? I know you got started, I want to say December of 2010, if I remember, something like that.
Yeah, we put out a few. And it was, I think it was the commitment of doing 200 videos in 200 days. And so I would batch the videos. I didn't have the money to make great videos. So I would just simply stand in front of the camera, give the information, no edits, no cuts, and just give good, solid information.
No edits, no cuts.
No edits, no cuts.
And how long were the videos you were making?
Anywhere from 6 to 12 minutes.
Got it.
So I would usually have a whiteboard right next to the camera. And so if you look at those early videos, they weren't always color corrected. So sometimes I look yellow like I have jaundice or something. I would just simply read through the points, and I knew the material well enough because all that writing I did for my own
Art
website.
Of Manliness and your own website.
For the Art of Manliness.
Yeah.
I knew the material, and I knew it so I could talk about this all day. And to me, it was something that, well, doesn't everyone know this? But as you know, in the financial world where you're an expert, you think, if you say the word Roth IRA, everyone should know what that is. But very few people really know what a Roth IRA is. And there's so much opportunity for someone just to go out there and take something that appears to be complex and make it very simple. And that's what I look to do with style.
So why don't we get into that? Why do you think it's important for entrepreneurs to pay attention to their style and the way they dress?
Simply because it's what people see. This is how we perceive the world. If I was sitting here naked, it would send
it probably would go viral.
It would be impressive, but it wouldn't be it wouldn't be the signal that we would want to send. And that's an extreme version. But if I was wearing clothing like a clown outfit, it would. And the clothing that we have, from the jackets that build up the shoulders, well, when you build up the shoulders on a man, he becomes more masculine. Even when you build up the shoulders on a woman, she becomes, in a sense, she has more masculine features. Now, what do you want to exaggerate as a man? You want to look more manly, because especially if age is, maybe putting weight around the midsection, maybe you have sloped shoulders. But if you appear more masculine, you appear more healthy. If you appear more healthy, we want to do business with people that are healthy. So all of that to me comes down to using the clothing as a tool to be able to close the sale, build the trust, be able to get that person to hand you the money to invest, hand you the money to be able to start your company.
So how do I remember myself when I got started as an entrepreneur, I had no clue how to wear, dress anything. I mean, I was in high school, it was Dickies and an Emmett Smith jersey. If you want to kind of figure out the outfits on what we wear around high school, you really don't have a lot of, you're trying to figure it out. And then we go into the Army, and Army, you learn how to iron your clothes. So that kind of helps you out a little bit when I'm in the Army. And then I get out, I'm a bodybuilder, then I'm trying to get into business. I don't know how to tie a tie, I don't know how to put a suit on. As a startup entrepreneur, brand spanking new executive, salesperson, entrepreneur, what are some musts to have in the closet for me?
Well, it's funny, you mentioned the Army. In the Army, they actually have SOPs. You have the standard operating procedures, and you have the regs, basically. And you've got certain uniforms. In the Marines, we had our Class A, Class B. We had various types of uniforms for different functions. It's the same thing in the civilian world, is that you actually have certain dress codes for certain events. So you'll look around and you should just look for inspiration. And it can come from Hollywood, it can come from the music industry, it can come from successful executives you see on television. And so if you've got a favorite show, maybe it's Suits, maybe it's going to be Mad Men or something like that because you want to be in an agency, then simply look to them. And what's cool about men's style, which is one of the reasons I love it, is it moves very slowly. So if you stick with style, which is timeless in many ways, versus fashion, which is fleeting. Fashion is something where we see trends going on, and fashion changes pretty quick.
Very interesting what you just said. Again, so style stays, it changes slowly.
Yes.
Fashion changes rapidly.
Yes. So if you look at Cary Grant, a picture of him from a 1950, 1960 movie, the guy could literally walk out of that movie and he's fine. You go to watch the movie Ocean's 11, the original one, or watch the newer ones. Their style can walk out.
That's a very good point.
And it's
very
10
good
years
point.
old. But fashion, if you look at, I saw a picture of a lot of basketball players that visited the White House. I think it was the year 2005 or something like that. And they're all wearing these really like baggy, loose suits. And then they showed them again in 2015. They were wearing actually really well-fitted suits. That is more a bit fashion. So if you see things that it looks very trendy, or if it's in a high-end boutique, if it looks a bit extreme, you may want to avoid it. But getting to your original question about what items to look for, it really comes down to what is your need. I do think every man needs to have a dark colored suit that fits him well. And the best thing that you can do is go to a menswear store. Yes, you're going to spend a little bit more money, but find somebody that can guide you, can look at your body type and actually find something that's going to fit you. So I always talk about the style pyramid, which is fit, function, and fabric. And those three things right there. So get the fit right, make sure it fits your body. Then it's going to go down to the function. So this is where you get the right clothing for the right, here working in your office, I don't think people need to wear a suit, but they still need to look professional. So this is what's the function of the clothing. And then the fabric. That's basically the best that you can afford. There's a difference between a $40 pair of shoes and a $400 pair of shoes. Now, if you can only afford a $40 pair, then sure, get the best $40 pair you can afford. But you're always looking that if you're going to upgrade your wardrobe after you get that first bonus, the first Christmas bonus, you say, I'm going to reinvest in myself, and I'm going to maybe look to get those shoes that cost $200 to $300, or they were $400, but they're on sale for $200, and I know I've been watching these, and I'm going to go in there and scoop them up because those expensive shoes may seem expensive, but I'm going to be able to wear them 400 times before they wear out, versus the other ones I can only wear 100 times and they start to look bad.
Any specific stores you would recommend where you can get those discounts? Are there any favorites you got?
I'm just going to say box stores in general. The reason box stores is they bring in a lot of inventory, and they usually have their, I like Nordstrom's simply because of the customer service and they have a long history. But you can go to, you can go to Macy's and find amazing deals. You can go to JCPenney's and find good deals. Find a store that you resonate with the price, know what you're looking for, and kind of create almost like a hit list of, okay, I need to get the suit, I need to get the shoes, and we could spend all day going into a lot of the details, but get the shirts. I like to call it the interchangeable wardrobe. But first you need to know where you're, ideally who you're dressing for. Because if you're going to be going to New York and you're a banker, or if you're going to be selling insurance in Dallas, or if you're going to be a creative out at Google in San Francisco, very different dress codes, and so the clothing you're putting together is going to be different, but at the same time, having that hit list is going to help.
So would you say, who is your Real Men, Real Style, who is your ideal customer? Who's the ideal candidate for you?
I find he's a man in transition. So he's either just left the military, he's just graduated from undergrad or maybe graduate school, he's gone through a divorce perhaps, but he realizes that style matters. Something happened in his life that he realizes he has to up his style game. And so that kind of guy comes to my website, and I really, help him. I get him motivated. I focus in on the why. And Simon Sinek, he's written about this, really great points, but he talks about you've got to have an emotional component to getting on board. Because once a man has an emotional component, he'll find a way to satisfy that itch. If you're hungry, you go make yourself a sandwich, or you go out and you get food. Like, there are many ways to feed yourself, but you find a way to make that happen. And that's my goal at Real Men, Real Style, is to get you emotionally invested so that you will then, maybe you'll leave my website. I'm fine with that, because I recommend to like 20 or 30 other guys in my industry. I just had somebody, there's a guy, Ryan McGinn, he really talks a lot about dressing in a way to pick up women. Now, that's not an angle I go with. I'm married, I've got 4 kids. I just can't speak to that audience as well as he does. But I recommend him if that's what you want. Or Aaron Marino. Me and Aaron are the same age, but he has no kids. Him and his wife, they live a great life in Atlanta, Georgia. And if that's the type of style with more the alpha male that, wears earrings and, goes with that type of lifestyle, go for it. Go find him. But my website's an entry point to get you emotionally involved, and if you want the basics, like how to tie a tie, how a suit should fit. I've got infographics and all that great stuff.
You got very good content. You got every single, if you haven't been to his channel, you got to go to his channel. Anything any man can think about who's in sales, executive, business, you're trying to impress, you're going to find content on your site, on your channel about any of those questions that somebody may have. So, with that being said, the fact that that's your customer, your friend Aaron will be somebody because he's same age as you, but he's married, no kids, lives in Atlanta with his wife, or you said Ryan, I believe, who was dressed on how to get girls, et cetera, et cetera. I'm married, I have 3 kids myself, so I'm in a different place, but how do you feel yourself about today with, because I have my own opinions on how you dress and in what settings you dress. What do you think about the white shirt Steve Jobs? What do you think of, not the white shirt Steve Jobs where he wears the,
turtleneck.
The turtleneck, or you have the white shirt Zuckerberg, or what do you think about that part that's starting to become a trend in entrepreneurship?
Well, it's actually a gray shirt with Zuckerberg, and I just actually did a video on this, and he showed his wardrobe when he returned from maternity leave or paternity leave, and his wardrobe, it's all the same. It's all gray shirts, gray sweatshirts, and he basically has a uniform. And I love that certain men have uniforms. The fact that they take the thinking out of getting dressed in the morning. And for me to dress like this is easy because this is my wardrobe and it's all interchangeable. I think I received from Mario, he's like, have 4 different outfits. But I'm like, I looked at what I have. I've got 2 jackets, I have 4 shirts, and I have 2 pairs of trousers. Everything matches. So of those combinations, I've got 2 times 4 times 2, which is 16 different outfits. And for me, that's the beauty of interchangeability. That is my uniform. So for somebody like Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs, and what they did, they knew the message that they wanted to send the world. You know, Steve Jobs wanted to be like the everyday guy. I mean, but what's funny is you saw people in Apple stores dressing like him. They were inspired to be like him, and that was the uniform. So as long as you recognize that these guys have thought through that process and it's a uniform, I think it's genius.
Got it. So again, uniformity with Zuckerberg, Jobs. There's a part of it that Zuckerberg also says, I don't want to think a lot to be dressed and what I need to wear in the morning. And I feel like that every single morning I wake up, I don't want to think a lot. So I'll wear my I'm an entrepreneur shirt. If I could wear that every single day, I'll wear it every single day to come in. Now, if I'm meeting with, you know, AIG executives or Foresters or Nationwide executives and we're negotiating a major contract, then I'm going to wear my suit if I'm selling, if I'm presenting, if I'm speaking, depending on the audience. How do you, because what you just said right now, you sound like a mathematician, 2, 4, 2, the combination, shirts matches any of the jackets and the shoes, et cetera, et cetera. How does somebody who is not as structured and organized as you get structured and organized and having outfits matching? Is there a formula to it on matching? Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I kind of get, I mean, when it comes down to it, you start off with one outfit. Look and be inspired. I really advise, I mean, everyone's got some great musicians that they like, maybe some actors, someone that even if you have to go back and watch some of your favorite movies. It may be Goodfellas, it may be, you know, I've mentioned The Oceans, but the Thomas Crown Affair, especially some of the historic movies. And it's one of the exercises I have guys do in some of my courses, go watch these fun movies. But you start to realize how important costume is. Now, a costume is something that you don't wear very often, such as on Halloween. Kids are going to be out in costume. Ideally, though, you find the look that you want and you start to wear it. And then it doesn't become a costume. It becomes, you practice wearing it. It becomes your outfit. I mean, if Keith Richards or Johnny Depp were to walk into this room, and if they were dressed a little bit, you know, kind of outlandish, we wouldn't think anything of it because that's not a costume for them. That is actually, it seems like their persona and who they are. They've conditioned the world to see them in that way. So I always challenge a man, like, if you see yourself as the next, you know, insurance, you are going to dominate this industry. What does that man look like 20 years from now? What do you look like? What is he wearing? Okay, that's what you start to put together. And guess what? You start to dress like him today. Because you don't just wake up, you know, being, you know how it is, you don't wake up and all of a sudden success happens in one day. It's something that you have to practice, you have to live through. You need to practice to become better every single day. And the clothing, when you're able to take that and practice wearing it, it gets better. You start to see that, okay, I like this tie, it works with this outfit, this shirt goes with these trousers.
Is that accidental or is that intentional? So is that something you learn, or is it something by mistakes? Like, let me try green with, you know, blue. Let me try, you know, this with this. How does that happen? Is there a formula to it?
There's a basic, I mean, there's very simple things like going with monochromatic looks. So the shirt I have right here is going to go with these dark colored pants, these jeans I have right here. That is a look that I repeat again and again. It works for me. But the great thing about the monochromatic look right here is I throw on a jacket of 5 to 6 different colors and they all work. And that right there is, this shirt right here is a variation of a navy shirt. So navy shirts make up probably about 20 to 30% of my wardrobe. I love navy shirts and it's just something I go with. So I take small variations of those. This one right here is a small dot repeating pattern. This shirt was also custom made. So it has, you know, fun little things I had with the buttons here. Now I changed that up, but I started off with one look. And then I started finding variations of it by taking one piece and changing it out. And the same thing, like most of the jeans, they're all dark colored. I don't really wear any light colored jeans.
Is that a personal preference, or is it?
It's something I find that darker colors in general work for my complexion, work for who I am, where I'm at in my life right now. But if I had red hair, light colored skin, I would probably want to go with more mild colors. Perhaps, you know, what you have actually right here would work better for that complexion. Maybe not the red tie with red hair. It would be too much of a mirror here. But that would be something that a lot of men know the colors they naturally gravitate towards. I know for me it's olive green, brown, dark blues. Since a kid, I gravitated towards these. When it comes to metals, I gravitate towards silver because I'm cool toned. I can look at my arm here and see like the blue veins, so that indicates to me, like, and once you start to pick up on these things, you just repeat them again and again.
Got it. So it's a little bit of a so fashion is a little bit of self-awareness on you knowing what your style is and what fits you, based on what you're saying right
Yes.
now. Got it. And based on that, if I'm watching this right now and I'm saying, man, I want to figure out a way to be more fashionable, I want to look better, what do I do?
I would go back to the inspiration part. Again, focus in on one outfit. Look at, maybe it's Ryan Gosling. You just see him in the movie Drive and you're like, I love that look. Well, guess what? Just copy that exact look. Try to put it together, and no one is going to say, you look just like Ryan Gosling in Drive. No one remembers that. They just look at you and they're like, that looks really good. And you just smile and keep going. And you can go with casual looks that way. You can go with a little bit. But I find that, Hollywood, think about it. They've paid these stylists a lot of money to come up with these great looks. And it's all right there. It used to be that you could look at maybe Statesman, or you could look at people in the, Esquire used to do a pretty good job. GQ, go to those magazines. You can find some inspiration there. But a lot of them will list out like really expensive clothing. Realize that you can always go to a box store. You can find something similar. And if you don't have the money for a lot of clothing, you will have to up your level of education. If you've got the money, then you can just hire someone to go off and, custom clothiers, to have a stylist. So it's that's the trade-off. And that's one of the reasons I put out so much free content, is I realize I've got guys over in India, over in Pakistan, over in various parts of the world, from South Africa to Australia, that have tight budgets. And I figure, if they'll put in a little bit of time, then I can educate them so they can put together a great outfit on the cheap.
So let's transition back. I'd want to go back because at this point, based on your answers, if I ask you about tattoos and artwork and all this other stuff, your answer is probably going to be if it fits you. So if it's going to be based on the person's identity and the creativity, so we can skip that part. I want to go back to something else with you for entrepreneurs to kind of learn from you. How did you know that the moment you decided to do this? Because when I'm watching you as a consultant, I'm watching you from the consultant standpoint. I'm not watching you from the I'm looking at you as a brand, and if I'm your agent, let's just say I'm wanting to manage somebody like Antonio. I just learned a lot about you the last 30 minutes, 25 minutes. I learned that you are very comfortable not trying to be a product for everybody. You know what you're tailored to. It was very obvious. You said, I'm not the guy that's going to teach you how to be a player and a womanizer and how to do this. That's not my game. I'm married with 4 kids. I'm at a different phase of my life. Great. And we found out your wife is the only person you've kissed in your life, which is very impressive. More power to you. That's incredible. I'm impressed by that. Okay. The second thing we learned was the fact that if you want somebody that is same age as you, married, but they don't have kids, hey, maybe go to a different kind of a style. That's also not me. I'm not trying to be that, right? But here's who I am. So it seems like you found out exactly what product you're marketing towards and who your customer is. How did you yourself be self-aware that that is your customer? Because I think so many times entrepreneurs try to make everybody their customer and they wonder how come they fail. How did you transition yourself? You're a military guy, you're a Marine guy, you're an officer, you've gone to school. Is it because you went to University of Texas where they taught you that it's always good to find your ideal customer and stick to that? What was your transition, or did you at one point make the mistake of wanting to be everything to everybody and then you went down to specific? Yeah. Elaborate, talk on that a little bit if you could.
Well, just getting the fancy education, all that, spending all that money, all that time learning things, that helps a bit, like you're supposed to be able to see that, but you've got to make the mistake still. I think that maybe having mentors around you, I'm definitely part of many masterminds where I'm in with other entrepreneurs to be able to tell me the obvious. But I think for years with my custom clothier, I was hitting my head up against the wall trying to make that work, because I'm like, I'm gonna make this work, I'm gonna make this work, and I'm just hitting these barriers. And it wasn't until I really sat down and looked at the numbers and the amount of time I was putting in there that I realized I've just got to call it quits on this business and transition to the other one. Being able to identify who my target customer is, I had to go through the painful process of realizing that I'm spending 20% of my time on these 80% of people, or these people that are making me 80% of my money, versus all these other people that I'm trying to spend and close deals with and get them to buy my products aren't buying anything. Why am I even focused on these guys? And so yeah, I dealt with returns. I mean, I looked at who's returning.
At what point of your career did you do that? Like, how did that happen? Was it you were noticing you're spinning your wheels? Was it you noticed that you're how did you go? That's what I want to know. Like, I want to know what caused you. Did you inspect your business? Did you sit down and write down the numbers? Was there where are our profits coming from? What's our profit margin? How did you do it? How did you process that? You understand the question I'm asking?
Yeah.
So what I want to know is, because someone's watching this, let's just say, and this person's a real estate agent, okay? And imagine this guy's a real estate agent out of, pick a place, Boise, Idaho. And he's been trying to get into this market of lawyers, and it's not working for him. But he's doing very well in the market of working with, $250,000 loans. He's trying to get into the $600,000 loans. And so far he's landed one. He sold one property that's $600,000 in Boise, Idaho, which is not $600,000 homes in Boise are bigger homes. And he's realizing 250 is working for him. How does he process that to stop chasing the 650 and realize he does very well with the 250, just get better at the 250? How did you go through that transition?
It's going through a very painful time in your life in which you realize that business isn't everything, and you've got to be able to drop quite a few things. So I'm thinking to a time that it was 2009, and my sister had died. She committed suicide. So I'm the oldest son in my family, and I had to stop everything. And I'm driving down from Wisconsin to Texas. She was in Austin, Texas. And I had to drive her cremated body. I had to clean out her apartment all the way out to California with my brother. And I remember I was having to take business calls that led to nowhere with her urn in between my legs as I'm driving across the United States. So when I realized that I was spread so thin in my business that I couldn't even grieve the death of my little sister, I think that right there kind of gave me really put business in perspective, that I didn't have an unlimited amount of time to spend on things, and that I needed to focus in on my winners. Because if I kept focusing in on these losers, and that, they're probably right business for somebody else, that I just don't have too much time. So now, as you can see, that's why I bring my son on projects with me, why I homeschool my kids. It's really, I realize the time I have is very limited. And I think the dangerous thing for an entrepreneur, especially one that's tasting success, is that we get comfortable. We get, happy. Okay, my business is doing $1 million and I'm keeping a lot of that. How do you get that hunger back to make that jump to 5 million? Or if you're at 5 million, to go from 5 million to 25 million, or whatever that jump is. Or if you're at 200,000, how to go from 500,000. And so for me, it was having something very painful, and I do find that smaller events like that happen again and again in life. And I try to really recognize when those happen and then motivate myself. So, and masterminds help a lot, being around other entrepreneurs that get it, that they've had it, so that they've, no one, the ball stops with you. The buck stops with you as a business owner. You have to be there, or do you? And so that's why, and we were talking about this earlier, one of the reasons I've decided to build at this point more of a lifestyle business than one that requires me to be there, because I wanted a business that I could take time away to be able to travel the world.
That's why I asked you the question. I said, do you really want to do that?
Yeah.
Do you really want to go to this phase? Because you want to homeschool and you want to scale. They may not match together on what you want to do at that point. So interesting. I find that very interesting, because do you think if you, sometimes people chase following versus valuable followers, if that makes any sense? Like, you may have a certain amount of followers, but they're 100% loyal followers to what you're teaching, versus somebody else may have more following, but their conversion on their following may be minimal compared to the conversion that you're having.
Yeah.
So a life-changing event that happened to you, which I'm sorry to hear that, but that made you realize the value of time. And I think a big part of entrepreneurship is realizing one, you don't have a lot of time, especially later on when you have kids. I have 3 kids under the age of 5, and they're all wanting daddy time, and makes you look at things in a complete different way. So what's next for you? What's next for you? What are you doing next? What's your vision now? You're doing good. You're got good things going on. You have choices. You have options. You have, kids who love you. You got a family. You got your wife. You're making the money. What's your vision now? What's next for you?
We've got a conference out in Atlanta that we've been running for about 3 years, and it's called StyleCon. We're probably going to rebrand it because it's more about just bringing men together to talk about business communication and entrepreneurship, and we do talk about style and lifestyle. So I run that with Aaron Marino over at Alpha M. We usually get about 300 people out to that one, so that one's been a lot of fun. We also, let me think, our company Menfluential. What happened is we saw
Menfluential?
Menfluential, it's a media company. Thanks.
What a great name.
We realized that there's a lot of men influencers in the industry.
I love that name.
We simply brought them all together because we found that we were getting a lot of leads. And so I'll get 10 leads a day, people that want to work with me, of which only like 1 out of 20 turn into any real business. But the thing is many of those could be business for smaller creators. I just simply don't touch a deal if it's less than $5,000. That's my barrier. But there's many creators that would love to do a deal for $1,000 or $2,000. So what we did is we started farming out. We took all those leads and we found other smaller creators, and we just became a place where influencers come who are focused in on men, and we just been building up that kind of media company. I look at you start to look at business from just building your own business to being able to create something maybe that could be acquired, create something that just simply feeds into your other businesses, and so those are the 2 things that are keeping me busy besides Real Men, Real Style.
I love it. I love the whole Menfluential concept, the name. Just for us, like when we came out with Valuetainment, it was we want to bring value, but we think we have to do it in a way where we captivate and entertain. So we combine entertainment with value, came out with Valuetainment. So I love the name. Menfluential. Okay, sounds good. Any last thoughts that you want to share with the entrepreneurs out there on what they can be thinking about when they're thinking about style, when they're thinking about fashion, when they're thinking about professionalism, when they're thinking about having an edge in their business, when they're thinking about growing their businesses? What are some last thoughts you could say to everybody out there?
So do you know about Neil Patel? You know who this guy
is?
Yes.
Yes. So, he's a marketer, right? He's a marketing guy.
He is, and he doesn't even care about clothing. Yet I just read the other day, I think he spent like $162,321.42, something like that, on clothing in 1 year. And he showed exactly, because he's a conversion expert, he showed how that spend on clothing equated to almost $700,000 in extra sales. And this is a guy that just meets with people, and he showed that, okay, I did nothing different in my pitch. Everything was kept the same. So he started wearing Tom Ford suits and all this other stuff, because he's like, I asked people for an outlandish amount of money to be able to work on their websites and increase the conversions. And when he showed like the breakout of how he went from a 25% closure rate of his meetings to sales to 40%, and all he changed was the way he dressed. To me, that's what should motivate an entrepreneur. It's not about like, okay, you may say, oh, I'm not going to be comfortable. I'm not a suit jacket kind of guy. Well, who are you? I mean, if you think about who you want to be and then dress to be. I mean, this clothing I know fits me perfectly, and I'm very comfortable in it because I practiced wearing it. And just because something's unfamiliar doesn't mean it's uncomfortable. It's just you're not used to it. It's like going to the gym. You start to wear it, it starts to become you. Mm-hmm. You get compliments, you feel better. And I think from an entrepreneur's perspective, most importantly, your business does better.
Excellent. That's great to know. So where can people find you and follow you? Where would you like people to go and find you and follow you?
Yeah, just check out my YouTube channel, Real Men, Real Style.
Real Men, Real Style. We'll put all the links on the bottom. Let's make sure we put the website. Is Menfluential something you want to market? Is that something that...
yeah, if they check out Real Men, Real Style, we've got a link over to Menfluential.
On the website? Okay,
yeah.
So we'll put the link, we'll put the video, we'll put everything. I highly, highly recommend. I wish, honestly, I'm 38 yesterday. Okay, I'm 38 yesterday. I wish when I was 20 years old, 21 years old, getting out of the Army, I truly wish there was a YouTube channel like yours for me to go to and learn the basics. It would have saved me 2 years of looking terrible. it would have saved me years of not being presentable if I had a channel like yours. So I highly recommend you follow his YouTube channel and his content. Again, Antonio, thank you so much for joining us, brother. This has been a blast. And gang, you got any questions, you got any thoughts, any comments, please comment on the bottom. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, subscribe as well. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.